again. This is Satan's Trilogy. I'm reading Book 3, Chapter 5, and this will be reading 100. I am the author and the narrator. Sit back, relax, and let the story unfold. Satan ran to the far corner of the ring and climbed the ropes. Standing tall on the ropes in the corner, Satan raised his hands up and yelled in a way that few in the audience weren't concerned that tragedy would soon strike. With his arms in the air, bolts of electricity came down and struck his arms. It appeared that Satan was being electrified, and yet he stood tall on the ropes and gave out another yell. Immediately, Satan was surrounded by 6 attendants dressed in red costumes wearing red masks that showed little in facial features. Bo was losing his patience with Satan and decided to move against him. The theatrics of his stage presence didn't bother him. Bo was certain that Satan was only a man, that he could be defeated. When Bo reached a few feet from the corner, Satan jumped onto him. His attendants grabbed Bo's legs as Satan stood and again fell into Bo while he was attempting to collect his breath. Satan was about to toss himself down upon Bo's chest when he moved quickly to the far left, away from Satan. Danielle and Tracy had just managed Bo's release from Satan's attendants by using tasers on anyone holding Bo down. Unorthodox, yes. Extreme, yes. But no one seemed to mind. As Satan's elbow hit the mat, Bo was up and standing over him. Quickly, Bo slammed onto Satan with his elbow, which had little effect, but Bo quickly moved into a wrestling move that locked Satan's arms behind his back. Managing to stand, Satan's arms were held behind his back by Bo Jackson. Satan glanced into his corner and watched as his manager dropped a black hanky. This was Satan's cue to quickly end the match. Bo suddenly felt he lost control of Satan as he was pushed him back into the corner of the mat, and Satan pulled his left arm away from Bo's grip. Turning towards Bo, Satan grabbed Bo's arm, pulled him out of the corner and towards the opposite side of the ring. The energy behind that pull was huge. Bo Jackson went flying into the opposite corner. Satan walked slowly over to Bo Jackson and stood behind him as he watched Bo slowly collapse from the force of hitting the corner post. Moving his forearm around Bo's neck, Satan pulled Bo back to the corner of the ring and quickly turned him upside down. Releasing Bo, his head hit the floor mat and his body went completely limp to the wrestling surface. Bo Jackson was no longer a contender for the title, and was nearly everyone in the arena wondered if he was even alive, let alone capable of wrestling again. Circling Bo's limp body on the mat, Satan was holding his arms up in victory. Then Satan, without looking, placed his foot onto Bo's chest and held him down as Big John counted him out. The match had been won by Satan. The crowd was applauding loudly and yelling hundreds of compliments. Satan removed his foot from Bo's chest and walked to the edge of the ring. His manager, Dr. Mann, and Michael Wade were waiting for him. The twins were quickly at Bo's side, following the W.O.W. doctor into the ring. Using smelling salts, Dr. Simon Starr was examining Bo Jackson. Bo gagged and was semi-alert. Bo gagged and was semi-alert. Dr. Starr pronounced him fine. Looking at the twins, he said, "He is fine. He only had the wind knocked out of him." The doctor glanced over his shoulder at Satan in the middle of the ring, Holding his arms up in victory, he then added, "He is lucky. Most of Satan's challengers were carried off the mat. Bo can walk off in a minute or two." Looking nervous, the doctor added, "You should get him out of here quickly." He closed his black bag and left the ring. Dr. Starr left the ring and reclaimed his seat, sandwiched between two very lovely young women. They couldn't have been more than 18, but somehow they seemed hardened and older. They had heavy makeup, wore short skirts with loose tops, and appeared to be having the time of their lives. Michael Wade had finished announcing Satan the winner of the match and the continued heavyweight champion of the W.O.W. Satan's manager, Dr. Mann, was making a statement about how Satan was undefeated and would remain the W.O.W. champion forever. He was a slight man with a high, pitchy voice, and he talked slow. The audience always listened to every word he spoke. Somehow, Dr. Mann was able to command everyone's attention. He always wore a white suit, which seemed to complement his white hair. His Hitler-styled hair and mustache made him look dangerous. Few people ever approached Dr. Mann for any reason. Bo started to stumble to his feet. He was still weak and confused. Danielle and Tracy tried to keep him from getting up, but Bo grabbed them and attempted to pull himself up, using their help. Satan, while listening to Dr. Mann's comments, glanced towards Bo and seemed infuriated that he would be standing before he left the ring. Moving quickly, Satan walked over towards Bo, but Danielle and Tracy, without hesitation, stood between Satan and Bo. They raised their arms in a gesture to keep him back and away from Bo, but Satan was soon upon them. Bo was on one knee behind the girls as they held off Satan. Standing easily a foot taller than the twins and more than their combined weight, Satan paused a moment. He was looking past the twins and at Esther, who had quickly stood up from her seat as Satan approached the girls. Satan saw Esther's glance and then reviewed his options. Turning away from the twins, motioned with his arms towards Bo and spoke as he turned away. "I'll not waste any my time on someone so weak." The entire stadium was puzzled at Satan's mercy. Everyone had expected to see Bo Jackson finished off. Perhaps Satan chose not to deal with women, preferring not to harm the weaker sex. Whatever had happened, it was over. Satan had left the ring, and Black Gothic Band was playing a rhythmic sound that eased people down from the excitement of the night. They would stop playing in a minute and then do a short concert for their fans within a matter of minutes. Mary M. stood up and prepared to leave. Turning to Esther, she said, This was a wonderful evening. I can catch a bus home so that you and Day are free to stay." Esther turned to Day. "Would you mind picking me up at Mary's after the concert is over?" Day responded, "Of course not, Esther. I'll text you when I am leaving." Esther smiled at Mary. "I thought it would be nice to catch up on what's happened in the past few months." Esther just grinned at Mary and then smiled. With a warm smile like Esther's, few people argued with her, including Mary M. The two girls left the stadium and headed to the bus stop several blocks away. Mary checked her watch. The wrestling lasted a lot longer than usual. "We need to hurry to catch the bus. Let's cut down the alley," said Mary. The alley was at least a block long, and as they neared the far end, Esther held out her arm in front of Mary and paused in her tracks. Mary stopped walking. Esther moved her hair slightly behind her ear on the right side of her head, then spoke to Mary. "There are 3 men ahead of us on the corner. They have guns. Are you an excellent shot with the gun you carry?" Mary wondered how Esther had detected that she was carrying a gun, but answered her question quickly. I hit whatever I shoot at. Esther continued. The 3 men will come around the corner. Shoot to kill the 2 outside men, but do not shoot the man in the center. Esther repeated. The man in the center is not a threat. Do not shoot him. Suddenly, as Esther had predicted, 3 men walked around the corner, blocking their path to the bus stop. All 3 looked and dressed in a similar fashion, wearing sweatshirts with hoods and long, loose slacks. The man on the right spoke. You girls seem to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You can drop your purses and keep walking, or you can die where you stand. Esther responded to their threats. My friend has a gun. I told her to kill the 2 men on the outside and not to shoot the man in the center. Esther smiled. Do you want to die tonight? Esther stood calmly, as did Mary. Suddenly, the man on the left ran off. Quickly, the man on the right followed him, leaving the man in the center standing alone. Esther walked up to him, with Mary following. Esther smiled at the young man, trying to assure him that he was not in danger. I heard them threaten you, said Esther. I have very good hearing. The young man, that was perhaps 17 or 18, spoke to Esther without looking at her. I tried to fight evil, but life keeps pulling me to the darkness. I can help you, said Esther, if you are willing to suffer some pain. The man continued to stare straight ahead. How? He said. I am from China. My master taught me how to drive out evil thoughts from a person. But as I said, it is painful. Esther had already taken his gun and was standing close to him with Mary at her back. The young man pulled his hoodie down to his shoulders and finally looked at Esther. Please do this for me, he said. He was of Mexican descent with long black hair, and his eyes were sad. Even Mary could see a lifetime of struggling in this young man's eyes. Esther moved closer to his face and blew into his mouth. It was a subtle blue hue of air that entered the man's mouth. Esther was holding his mouth open while exhaling the blue fumes into his mouth. As Esther released his mouth from her right hand, he collapsed to the ground. He had trouble breathing, and then he felt cramps, violent cramping in his gut. Finally, the young man collapsed into a fetal position, suffering severe pain. Esther looked at Mary. It's time to go. He will be fine. Mary had watched the young man collapse onto the pavement, looked up at Esther and said, We can still catch the bus. The 2 women walked away as if nothing had happened. The bus was just pulling up to the corner as they reached it. The girls chuckled and Esther said, Perfect timing. Mary wanted to discuss the night's W.O.W. wrestling events and asked Esther what she thought of Satan. Esther chuckled again. It seemed funny to her that so many people wondered about Satan's abilities. Answering Mary, Esther said, Satan is extremely strong, but Satan is just a man. Esther smiled and added, He is a man that must be respected for his strength. I have never seen a man with such strength. Esther smiled and commented on the earlier encounter with Satan. If I can push Satan away, then there is nothing mystical about him. He is just a man. Mary was surprised by Esther's insight and relaxed a bit, then added, Well, he is only a man, but he has a lot of people wondering. The girls discussed Satan for another couple of minutes until the bus came to Mary's stop. At the stadium, the concert had ended, and Day was at the rear of the Escalade grabbing Esther's helmet and her own helmet from the back of the Escalade. Day's phone had a text message from Esther. Hi, Day. Your helmet has been upgraded, similar to mine. After putting her helmet on, you can activate it by saying the 4 words, You spoke to me after I pulled the rapist off you. See you soon. Day placed Esther's helmet on the back of the bike and secured it. Then she put on her helmet and started the engine on the Ninja ZZR. It started with a strong yet slightly muffled sound, 1,400 cubic centimeters of power, capable of 176 miles per hour. The bike was exciting to ride, and this was truly exciting. Day and Esther would return later for her own Ninja. Day knew exactly the first words she had spoken to Esther the night she pulled a rapist off her. Pulling her helmet on, Day said, "You are my sister." Suddenly, the interior of the helmet lit up, and an orange grid came across the interior of the windshield. Data was being given in all corners of the helmet, which included her speed, position, speed of cars around her, and radar gun search results for police. The more Day studied the screen, the more amazed she was. Talking out loud, Day said, "This is awesome." Immediately, a voice was speaking to her. "Hello, Day. How may I help you?" Day was beyond excited. She didn't know if the voice was real or a human's. "Who are you?" said Day. "I am a simulated intellect application. Please call me Sia," the voice said. Day quickly asked, "Sia, I am on my way to pick up Esther at Mary M's apartment. Would you like to plot me the quickest route?" Sia's response was immediate. "I have factored in your motorcycle speed and limitations, along with your position in the final destination. The map is on your viewer." Day saw a map on the lower right of the screen that indicated the route to take. Sia's voice then began giving directions. Day was thrilled at all of the amazing features of her upgraded helmet. Day suddenly realized that Esther had connections with powerful people that could give her any help and or resource that she needed to accomplish a necessary task. Day rode the powerful bike slowly. She knew the way to Mary's, but wanted to enjoy her newfound amazing helmet. Day thought to herself, "What an amazing sister." So, that's the end of chapter 5, and that was reading 100. So until next time, take care and be safe. Thank you for listening.